Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Ooh, yeah. Here we go.
The good news is Kenny's dancing already. Now, that music can mean one thing and one thing only, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be covering today in today's episode of Road to the World Cup 26, the greatest sporting nation when it comes to World Cup. Certainly, if any of our generation are anything to go by, and that is, of course, ladies and gentlemen, Brazil.
Brazil. Oh, yeah, what a team. That just encapsulates the World Cup for me, Brazil.
It does. Now, as you know, we've been having a deep dive into all the qualified teams, and we've been building up to this moment, and we've been waiting for Brazil to qualify just so we can talk about it. I think, Ken, for certainly people our age, and I mean, I know you're a lot older than me, but even then, we fall broadly under the same generation. Brazil is the World Cup, and the World Cup is Brazil.
I think so. When you get a great Brazil team, you get a great World Cup. When you get an average Brazil team, it just kind of takes a little bit of air out of the World Cup tires, if I can put it that way. So we'll talk about the eras, and they go through such highs and lows, Brazil. But yeah, let's have a great Brazil side of this World Cup.
About the history of it, it is a cool. I mean, I ran around. I don't know about you. I ran around pretending to be Rivellino and other players sort of in the playground, because that was my era. That was my era growing up with football. And they were just such a good team. That 70s team was amazing.
Well, it's 1970 team is the one I remember. My first real awareness of the World Cup. I was around for 66, but I wasn't really around. But 70 I was, and I just remember that fourth goal against Italy in the World Cup final, where I think it's Carlos Alberto just appears from out of shot. So I think it's Pele just lays it off to space, and there's no one there. And then Carlos Alberto
into space.
Yeah, Carlos Alberto just runs into space, absolutely whacks it with his right foot, never leaves the ground by more than 6 inches, and goes straight into the left-hand corner. And I thought, they don't do that at Wrexham. That at Wrexham. This is a different kind of football.
Well, they do that at Wrexham, but they actually kick it into actual space.
It was absolutely mesmerising. So the 1970 World Cup for me is the thing that really switched me on to football and switched me on to the World Cup, because that was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I wasn't born when the World Cup was on in 1970, but I do remember the teams of just about 74, but certainly 78, and just that era. And of course, I've watched the team of 70 relentlessly, and what a side they are. So we'll be having a look at all of that. As always, we're going to pick out 5 players who we think are going to be superstars at the World Cup next year. We're looking at formations. We'll have a look at the manager. Squeeze into all of that, of course, is everybody's favourite time of the week. It'll be Kenny's quiz. Let's get cracking then with Brazil.
Don't like that chord.
Yeah, that's one of the most recognised. Yes, you can stop conducting now. That was one of the most recognisable national anthems in the world. What do you reckon?
I'm not keen on it. I'm not keen on it. No, I'm not. It's got that weird minor 7th chord in it that is slightly sambery, slightly jazzy. It sounds like they've listened to a European kind of opera and said, "Yeah, that'll do. That bit of music will do." And we've taken that as it's not inspiring for me. It's just a little bit too Vivaldi Four Seasons for me for a national anthem. So I can understand why people love it. I don't.
Yeah, in the National Anthem World Cup, where's it coming?
Oh, round 32. It's not for me. It's not even might not even get through the group stages.
Mate, you're off the scale here. You're off the scale. I think that's one of the great World Cup. Sorry, not even World Cup. The great national anthems of our time. Yeah. I think it's great. When I hear that being played at,
could you sing it back now? I couldn't sing it back.
Well, it's a bit better than that. I hope so. Anyway, I mean that is not getting out of group stages. If that's the Ken Davies, that ain't getting out of work. That's not getting out of group stages.
That's as good as the Brazil one. Anyway, so I'm sorry.
Anyway,
I'm sorry.
I should say at this stage that you're listening to Road to the World Cup podcast 26, just in case you'd wondered what on earth you'd stumbled into. My name's Nick Britten. I'm your host as always. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, the man who thinks he's the cleverest person on the planet. That is, of course, the Beaver, better known as Ken Davies. Have you had a good week, Ken?
I have had a good week because I was poorly a couple of weeks ago. This week it's been a road to recovery, really. Rolled the stone away, attained kind of living status again, having been on the borderline. But now I'm fine, and I feel energized, I feel energetic, I feel enthusiastic, and I can't wait to get stuck into Brazil.
Excellent. Well, in that case, before we do, let's have a little bit of your World Cup news for this week.
Oh, yeah.
Good shuffling of papers, Mr. Davies.
Thank you.
Not too much going on in the World Cup news file for this week, but a lot of the mainstream media this week has been reporting what we reported last week, Kenny. So we broke an exclusive news last week.
Absolutely
broke
news. We were
the first to it. And that is the threat of heat ruining next year's World Cup. Of course, and we discussed this on last week's podcast, the heat that's going on at the Club World Cup at the moment. Everybody's unhappy about it. Players, supporters, managers, they're all unhappy about it. And there are concerns are gathering now, and they're gathering pace, about the risk of player safety. And whisper this very quietly, whether or not the competition should be moved to the winter, as they did with Qatar. Now, realistically, it can't be. It's too late. It's too late in the day. Tickets are on sale, venues are booked, everything's booked, travel arrangements being made, etc., etc., etc. But it is becoming a real issue.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Well, I think it is a real issue. They won't be able to do anything about it because if they move it to winter, they'll be moving it straight into the NFL season. A lot of the stadiums are used during the NFL season. So they won't be able to do that. It's far too late anyway. We're just going to have to manage it. We're just going to have to mitigate it. There's going to have to be, I think it'll be a different kind of World Cup because of the circumstances of conditions. They may have to just have very regular breaks throughout, but I think teams are going to have to think about changing their squads, lots of flexibility within the squads just to take account of the fatigue. The things that really worries me is that when we get into the knockout stages, you always end up with extra time and penalties, and you can often have that in consecutive games. I think that's really, really going to take its toll then because it'll be even warmer the later in the competition. So, yeah, watch this space. But, we all saw it coming. Maybe they should have done something about it long before.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? It's odd. And it's not just that. I mean, look, the England. Did you see England? By the way, did you see England under-21s? They're through to the final of the European under-21 Championships. Did you see them play the other day?
I didn't see
them.
They
were really, really good in their both the quarterfinals and the semi-finals. But yeah, it's really impressive. But my point is that they are playing those Euros 2025 as they are now in championships are being played in Slovakia, and it was 33 degrees there when they played the other day. So it's all over the place. Maybe the World Cup in the future will just be played in winter.
Warming, mate. It's global warming. We're going to have to get used to this. Yeah. This is going to be the norm.
There we are. But it's not only the sun, it's not only the heat that is causing a little bit of controversy, and we'll be looking ahead to next year's World Cup, causing similar controversy. The pitches as well. Nobody's happy with the pitches, are they?
Not happy. Bellingham's not happy. Martinez, the Argentinian goalkeeper, is not happy. Obviously, there's the pitches being used in the World Club competition at the moment, and also in Copa America. Probably related to the same thing. Pitches don't survive well in arid conditions, and I think if the pitches are going to be problematic, and you combine that with the issues we're going to have in terms of temperature and things, I mean, that's pointing towards quite a disappointing World Cup for me because, I like World Cups where you see free-flowing football, you see fast exchanges, you see end-to-end. None of these things, these conditions and the pitches are pointing towards that kind of competition, I'm afraid.
No, they're not. They're pointed towards Sunday League kind of level, aren't they? Where everybody's knackered after 10 minutes, and when the ball bounces, it hits your knee, not your foot.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone stops for a cigarette at half time. Or an orange.
Or an orange.
Maybe that's what we should be doing.
Or a cigarette, or a beer.
Do you remember the days, talking about old World Cups as we were, do you remember the days when trainers used to, and managers used to smoke on the sidelines during the games? The Argentinian manager was the famous for it. He used to chain smoke all game. I mean, terrible message to put out, but funny at the same time.
Well, those are the days where players played and then went to the pub afterwards, had a few beers and a couple of fags, had Sunday off, and they were back on it. They're back on it Monday morning, and that's the way of the world.
Happy days.
Happy days. Happy days. Why can't we go back to that? That's what I want to know. Right. Let's have a look at the history of Brazil World Cup with our resident historian, Mr. Beaver. Over to you, Ken.
That'll be me. Before we get into that, by the way, as we know in football, it pays to get your team selection right. And here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we did just that because we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery partner. And we chose Zencastr because Zencastr makes it easy to bring your vision to life, share it with your audience, wherever they may be. So, 4K video recording, easy AI editing tools, top-tier distribution tools, all in one place. If you've got a story to tell it with Zencastr. Go and check the show notes right now, and you'll find out more details. So that's Zencastr, our friends there. So Brazil. They are, of course, as we said at the outset, the icons of the World Cup. Winners 5 times, 1958, 1962, 1970, and then 1994 and 2002. And that kind of gives you a little bit of a flavour of what's going on with Brazilian football, which we're about to elucidate on. So, in that time in the World Cup, by the way, they've played 114 games. They've won 76 of them. They've drawn 19 and lost 19. They are the only national team to have played in every World Cup edition without even needing any kind of playoffs. Automatic entry, every single World Cup. No one else can touch that. And they're the only team to have won in 4 different continents. So they won in Europe in 1958 in Sweden. They won in 1962 in South America, in Chile. They won in they won twice in North America. It's 1970 in Mexico, 94 in USA. And they won in Asia when they had the one in 2002 in South Korea and Japan. So, they are the kings of the World Cup. 1970, we touched about 1970, probably considered the greatest World Cup team of all time. Not in the sense if they'd win it today if they played with the same players, because most of them are dead and the rest are 80. But in terms of how far ahead they were of the competition. The Brazilian team of 1970 was so far ahead of everyone else. It was like they were aliens. It was absolutely magnificent. By the way, 2 interesting points that I discovered, which I'm going to test you on as well. It all started in Brazil. The first recognised game in Brazil was between a Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo side combined against an English team. Who were that English team?
What year was it?
1914.
1914.
Yeah, nearly 7:15.
You made that joke last week.
It never gets old. Never gets old.
It just stays the same time.
1914. Finished 3-3.
Right.
Who was the English team?
In 1914. It'll be Blackpool or Preston or something like that, won't it? One of the big teams of the early 1900s in the UK. It was an English team.
It was an English team.
Right. I'm going to go Preston North End.
Good guess. Exeter City, randomly. Exeter City turned up in Brazil and said, anyone fancy a game? And they got a combined Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo team to play them. Finished 3-3. The rest is history. Exeter City
Brazil went one way.
Exeter City went on to just nothing.
Is that Exeter City's best result ever? Is that the best result in the history?
Probably was 3-3 away in Brazil.
That's not bad.
So the Brazilian football can really be divided into eras. So there's the first golden era, which was 1958 to 1970, when they won 3 out of 4 World Cups. Then they go through this really dry spell from 1970 essentially to 1994, 24 years of doing really nothing. 74 team was rubbish, 78 team was rubbish, though it beat Scotland, but that doesn't matter. And then you enter the second golden era from 94 to 2002 when they won 2 World Cups in that period. That was probably your era, you remember. Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, those kind of players. The team I remember the 70s is Pele and Garrincha and Jairzinho and Carlos Alberto and Tostão and people like that. So they were... and now we enter from 26 to date, another dry spell. So you have this intense period of success, dry spell, intense period of success, dry spell. Are we about to enter, after another 20 odd years, another period of success? Now, second question for you. We mentioned Pele a few times. What was Pele's actual name?
I should know this. I've got a picture. I don't know.
You've got a picture of yourself with Pele.
Yeah, I've got a picture of me and Pele. I met him because I tried to get him on a podcast. I know I met him a few years ago, and it was very nice chap. I can't think. It's something de Nascimento or something like that. It's close. Yeah, go on. I should know this, but go on.
And I remember this from the 70s. I remember this was the kind of thing you knew at school. Edson Arantes
exactly that.
Edson Arantes do Nascimento, otherwise known as Pele. I mean, it was a bit of a mouthful.
I got the second half of that right then.
You get half a point for that. You don't get something to do, but you do get something close to Nascimento. So the form is not great. So last 14 games, they won 6, drawn 6, lost 2. In the CONMEBOL World Cup qualifications, won 7 out of the 16, drawn 4, lost 5. They lost home and away to Argentina. They lost to Uruguay away. They lost to Paraguay away. They lost to Colombia away. But they have qualified. And they qualified behind Argentina, obviously, who we know, and Ecuador. Now, Ecuador's interesting. We'll talk about Ecuador in their own time. But one of the things I noticed when I was doing because we do actually do some prep for these podcasts, don't we? In the 16 games...
How's the research for this one?
For tons of it. So it's like mastermind, like a university degree in Brazil. We've got Brazilian football.
The problem I had, which is the same problem as everybody has when they start researching a team like Brazil, you just end up watching loads of videos from the sort of 50s and 60s and 70s, which aren't particularly relevant to the podcast, but which are great fun and hugely entertaining, but also very, very time consuming.
Yeah, but a nice way to spend your time. Ecuador, by the way, qualified in second place. They played 16 games. How many goals did they concede in 16 games? Ecuador.
What is this? Like, I start out, the whole point of this podcast is to have a little bit in the middle called Kenny's Quiz, where I quiz you about various random stuff. Suddenly this podcast is turning into you firing questions at me.
Yeah, I just like to keep you on your toes, mate.
That's not the whole point, right? How many goals they conceded? Anybody at home can tell me this if you can text me immediately because I don't know the answer. So I'm going to go with 2.
5. But I mean, Ecuador conceded 5 goals.
They conceded 2. How do they let the other 3? Rubbish. Rubbish.
5 conceded 5 goals in 16 games. Actually, there's a point to that question because Brazil conceded many, many, many more than that.
Well,
and that's actually. They conceded 17 goals in 16 games. They have, so that's a point. We'll come to that point later on. So their form's not been brilliant, but of course, Dorival Jr. got the push after the 4-1 defeat to Argentina. It's a different world now. And in the last 2 games, Ancelotti's had 2 games, they've conceded precisely 0. And when we come to the formation, you'll see why, because he's changed the formation. On the rankings, finally, and then I'm going to shut up for a couple of minutes. Rankings, ranked fifth. From February 1994 to 2007, they were ranked first, the longest consecutive run of being first. Then they had a bit of a calamitous decline. By 2013, they were ranked 22nd in the world. Brazil, I didn't know that.
You would always think they'd never have a top 5, wouldn't you?
Always think the top 5. They were 22nd in June 2013. But by April 2017, they were first again. But they've now settled in the course of the last few years into a pretty consistent fifth. So they're currently ranked fifth. That is your 5-minute total synopsis on history, form, and ranking of Brazil.
I'm glad you got ranking out, because that could have ended very messy.
Ranking.
That's very good. I thought of particular. Thank you for that, Ken. By the way, I thought of particular interest of that was this ebb and flow, this idea of peaks and troughs, because as we're going to come on later on, I believe Brazil are on the verge of a golden period of their time where they're going to win major trophies.
And Brazil are massively cyclical.
Yeah, they go around on bicycles. Maybe that's the problem. They want to run around a pitch instead of cycling around, and they could probably do all right.
Yeah,
interesting.
But they are
time.
a hugely cyclical team, and it's an interesting thing to watch.
I think you meant cyclical, but don't tell him that. Right, okay, let's get on with some players. I'm going to pick out 5. It's cyclical. It's not cyclical.
Is cyclical and cyclical not the same thing?
Well, they mean the same thing, but they're pronounced differently.
Yeah, so. Okay.
Right.
Brazil are a very cyclical team.
Thank you very much. I now know what you mean. Let's have a look at 5 key players for the World Cup and then 1 possibly key player. And we all know who that's going to be, because that's going to be Neymar. We can't talk about players without talking about Neymar. But we don't yet know what effect he's going to have, if any, on the World Cup next year. So we're going to come to him a little bit. But 5 players who can guarantee are going to be there. Form and injury, of course, pending is, I'll start at the back as I always do. I always like to look at teams' goalkeepers. So let's have a look at the Brazil goalkeeper. And that is, of course, Alisson. Great goalkeeper. 2018 was the year of the Alisson. That's when he moved to Liverpool, where he has since established himself as one of the best keepers in the world. It's also the same year that he really made his mark on the Brazil national team, and he's been pretty much an ever-present since. So 2018 to 2025, he has been absolutely on top of his game. He has got the lot. He's 6'4", he's massive. If you see anybody watches Liverpool, when players are on a one-on-one with Alisson, you can see them. There's a phrase that I was about to use, but the second word of which would be themselves. And you can see them, well, they're a bit nervous, but like that, because this enormous guy covered in tattoos is like standing there like a bear in front of them. And it's very difficult to get the ball around him. He's great with his hands. He's great with the ball at his feet. His distribution is absolutely
fantastic distribution.
He's
so confident on the ball, isn't he? He's like a defender.
Yeah, and he took. I mean, we all remember Manuel Neuer. He was the first of this kind of generation of sweeper keepers. He brought in the whole idea of goalkeepers playing with their feet, which has kind of been evolved in the Premier League by Pep Guardiola, particularly. And now goalkeepers are expected to be good with their feet, which is a problem for you and I, Ken, because when we go and watch Championship football next year and Derby and Wrexham, we don't want to see goalkeepers playing out from the back at all. We want to see them hoofing it as far as they can up the pitch, because that's the only way they won't concede. But anyway,
most of them are with their hands, never mind their feet.
No, this is true. He's played 229 games for Liverpool, during which, and this is what I particularly like, he scored 1 goal. He scored 1 goal. And it came on the 16th of May in 2021. It was West Brom 1, Liverpool 1 in the Premier League. We're in the 95th minute. And at that stage of the season, of course, we've only got a couple of games left of the season, Liverpool were vying to get into the Champions League. They needed to finish in that top 4. Injury time corner. Trent Alexander-Arnold swings the ball over, and Alisson is standing about 6 or 7 yards out, in line parallel with the near post from where the ball's coming to, if you can imagine that. And he gets his head on the ball. But he not only gets his head on the ball, but he powers a header using his neck muscles, the way a seasoned striker would, and powers the ball into the opposite corner. It was like a proper striker's header. 2-1, Liverpool win the game, and they end up finishing 3rd. Cue mass celebration. Great goal. It was a great goal. Anyway, he was the first. He was the first goalkeeper to score a headed goal in the Premier League, and he was the first goalkeeper to ever score a winning goal in the Premier League. Anyway, I've got a little. Everybody listening today, this isn't Kenny's quiz. It's a general question. I'll give you the answer later on. As I said, he was the 6th goalkeeper to score in the Premier League. Can you name the other 5? You've got a little bit of time, and we'll come back to it a bit later on.
Glad that's not Kenny's quiz.
Hey, if I gave you Kenny's quiz of name me a country that begins with B and sounds like Brazil, you'd struggle. Right,
Bermuda.
let's get on with the second player, and that is Marquinhos, the Brazilian captain and legend. 99 caps, won't be long before he gets his 100. He is a centre-half extraordinaire. 312 games for PSG, where he's won the absolute lot domestically. Recently, of course, winning the Champions League as well. 9 league titles in 12 years. He's won the French Super Cup 8 times, the French Cup 6 times, the League Cup 6 times. It goes on and on and on. Of course, the big one was Champions League, which he won, about a month or so ago, when PSG absolutely trounced, demolished,
They were
destroyed.
impressive. They were impressive that night.
Yeah. Oh, they were superb. And that win there completed a historic continental treble. They'd already won League One. They'd already won the Coupe de France. And they won the Champions League. So he's right on top of his game, really right on top of his game. He's quick, his anticipation. He is, as you would fully expect any Brazilian player to be, fantastic on the ball. He can turn defence into attack very, very quickly. He is the complete package. He is a Rolls Royce of a footballer. So here's my second pick.
Mm-hmm.
Third, we go on to one of my favourite players of the last year, in the Premier League particularly, and that's Bruno Guimaraes, who plays for Newcastle United. A darling of Tyneside, the absolute darling of Tyneside. They love him up there. And he's grown so much, not physically, because he's not the tallest.
He's a little fella.
But he's grown as a leader on the pitch. He was handed the captain's armband at Newcastle. And over the last couple of years playing in the Premier League, he's become such a different and such a good player, to the point now that he's able to play in a two-man midfield for Brazil alongside Casemiro, who can barely move. So, you're then playing in a one-man midfield, essentially. He gets around...
Casemiro will last till the World Cup. I know he's probably not on your list of top 5, but he's had a poor season, hasn't he, Casemiro?
He's had a poor season at Man U, but he still does it for Brazil, actually. But no, not unless Carlo changes the midfield. He needs more help around him. You can't go up. You can't go up against the best teams in the world with essentially Bruno. But he gets around the pitch really well. He's good at making those late man runs into the box. Equally, he's very happy digging in and playing that DM role as well and defending. So he's got that kind of. He's a kind of complete midfielder. He is a little bit. He can get a little bit aggy, if you know what I mean. He can get a little bit. He can wind him up a little bit easily. He can get a bit angry. And I think one of the learning points for him is if he can keep himself cool, then that doesn't affect his game. We've seen him this season.
You like a bit of that. You like a bit of.
He can have periods of the game where he just goes off the boil and goes in the ump, and that's no good. It's no good for Newcastle. Certainly won't be any good for Brazil. Newcastle, of course, everybody knows, ended their 7 million year wait for a trophy this year. They won the League Cup. And Dan Burns said the other day when he was being interviewed, his teammate Dan Burn, who plays in defence for Newcastle, said that his pre-match speech to the players properly got them pumped up. And he said he spoke before, this is Dan Burn now, he spoke beforehand about going on a pitch as players and leaving as legends. And he said that had such an effect. And I like that. He has such an effect on the players that's exactly what they did. And it worked because Newcastle won. And to be honest, mate, that reminds me of you in these podcasts. You start these podcasts as a broadcaster, you leave as a legend.
Me? Thanks very much. That's what I try. That's what I tell myself before every podcast.
I like to think so. A great player, great bloke, and sure to start at the World Cup next year. Number 4 of my players to watch out for Brazil is, of course, Vinicius Junior. Quick, skillful, unpredictable, brilliant with the ball at his feet. He's got an eye for goal. He can play anywhere, really, across the front three, but plays on the left. Is he the real star of Madrid? Everybody goes on about Mbappe, but is Vinicius Junior the real star?
This is an interesting point, this Vinicius Junior, because I was digging into because obviously he's a key player for Brazil. He's not a goal scorer, though. This is one of the things that worries me, in the sense that he's got, for Real Madrid, who dominate games generally, 61 in 206 games, one goal per 3.4 games. For Brazil, 1 goal every 5.9 games. My problem with Vinicius Junior, he is extraordinarily skillful and he definitely useful in terms of assists, but he doesn't convert enough. And I think that's part of Brazil's issues, and that's been part of Brazil's issues in the past. They don't really have an out-and-out goal scorer, unless we're talking Neymar, and I don't think we're going to be talking Neymar.
No. Well, we are talking Neymar in just a moment, but not in the extent of he's going to be Brazil's top goal scorer. Yeah, that's a fair point.
No.
That's a fair point. Well, he's got a season to get his shooting boots on and
Gonna have
improve, I
to.
guess.
He's going to have
But
to. Maybe Ancelotti can really unlock something within him.
I think well, he was manager of Real
Yeah,
Madrid.
exactly. Exactly, yeah. So he's obviously
He was
believes
voted.
him.
He was voted the best FIFA men's player in 2024. So he must have something about it. I think you're doing him a bit
Oh, he's a
disservice.
great. He's a great player, but I don't think he's a great player. If you get my drift, my
No,
difference
he's only
between the
24.
word
Oh,
great
yeah,
and
I hear you. I hear you. In the modern game, who's a better player? Look, I'm not suggesting he is, but it's an interesting point you make. Who would you put as a great player in the modern era?
Mbappe, probably. I'd put ahead of him. Uh,
Maybe.
Paul
Maybe.
Mullin.
I've just got a bit of a theory. I mean, look, to be fair, Mbappe, when he pulls on a France shirt, is unbelievable. And he's often played better for France than he's ever played for
Yeah,
domestic.
that's true.
Certainly when he's at PSG. It's slightly different now he's at Real. I don't know. I think Vinny Junior is the kind of power behind the
You put
throne.
Salah ahead of him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I put Salah ahead of him. In terms of goal scoring, you put Salah ahead of anybody, quite frankly,
Kane
in the world.
even?
No, but they're very different. They're very, very different. Aren't
They are entirely different
I mean,
players.
Kane hangs around a 6-yard box and scores goals, and
Yeah,
he does score goals. And England would be absolutely lost without him. And I know we disagree on this because you don't rate Harry Kane, but I think England still rely on him so heavily. Vinny Junior, you can't even compare. He's a totally different player. Anyway, he has got
a lot resting on Vinny's shoulders in this World Cup, I think. And he's if he has a fantastic World Cup, I think Brazil will. If he doesn't, I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. He's got to get this indiscipline out of his game. He gets booked a lot for defense. For defense. Why would you get booked for defending? He gets booked a lot for dissent, is what I meant to say. And he gets involved with other players, and it's all a bit unnecessary. He's been told, by the way, by several managers and players to calm down and improve his discipline if he wants to reach the potential that you're talking about, where he is the great of the greats. But his reputation off the pitch is huge. He's become a real figurehead for the game's fight against racism. He's been the victim of some horrendous racism, including when, by the way, if you might have seen this in the news, when Atletico Madrid supporters hung an effigy off him off a bridge. They were convicted very recently for that. And that's horrendous. But as a result of that element of racism, he was asked by FIFA to kind of head up a group, and his profile, and that profile of fight against racism has really, really risen, and that's a lot down due to him. He does a lot of work for disadvantaged teenagers and neighbourhoods in Brazil. So he's got that. I like that. I like all that.
You've got to love him for all that. You've got to love him from the stuff he does outside the game. I want him to have a great World Cup. I just think he's going to. One of the things I noticed that obviously Xabi Alonso has taken over at Real now, and he pointed Vinicius out. He said, he doesn't do his defensive duties, and because Xabi Alonso is about full team press and everybody's got a role to play in defence. 11 players defending, and he said things are going to have to change with Vinicius, and so that's going to be interesting in terms of what happens with Xabi Alonso at Real, because he's clearly marked his card very early. I think Ancelotti probably gives him more rein than that.
That's fascinating but if he can add that to his game, that will help take him to another level, won't it?
Yeah, it will.
Because he's got everything in his box. If he needs to then learn how to press as a team, defend as a team, etc., that's going to really add to his game. Yeah, that's interesting. But the flip side of that is, I guess, if he doesn't do it, he won't be playing. And if he ain't playing,
I think Ancelotti will gives him more slack than that. I mean, he played with that's the way he played under Ancelotti at Real Madrid. His focus was on attack rather than defence, and Ancelotti kind of allowed that.
I get that. No, what I'm saying is, if he's not playing for Madrid because he's not doing what the manager wants, what effect does that have on his international career?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
He'll probably still get picked, but yeah, interesting. So we'll see. Interesting. We'll see. Right. We're going to talk about Neymar in just a moment, but before I do that, I've got a wild card entry for you, Kenny. I've got a wild card entry for you for my 5 players to watch out for Brazil, because I'm going to talk for a moment about Igor Jesus, who is the breakthrough star of the Club World Cup, plays for Botafogo, and he's had a brilliant Club World Cup. He recently broke into the Brazil national team, and he is definitely one to watch for next year. Definitely one to watch.
What position did he play? I'm not familiar with him at all.
Yeah, no, he's a striker. So he's described as the Didier Drogba of modern times by the South American journalist Tim Vickery. I love Tim Vickery. I don't know if you know Tim Vickery. He's absolutely brilliant. I love listening to him, and his knowledge on South American football is unbelievable. And this guy, he's a young guy, and he's joined, as I say, he joined Botafogo in July 2024, so only this time last year, from Shabab Al Ali, and he's enjoyed an absolutely meteoric rise to fame. He's physically imposing. His nickname in Brazil is the Little Frog. Now, I don't know why. Can you think why he might be called the Little Frog?
He's green. I have no idea.
Correct. He's green and he jumps around a lot, and he's got a really massive long tongue.
No idea why he's called Little Frog. No, his eyes. He's got massive eyes on the side of his head.
I don't know, but if he lives
in a tree. He lives in a tree. I have no idea.
No, I don't either. But I can imagine, like, if a ball's played over the top and you're competing with a defender to get to it, yeah, you can jump in front of the defender, stick your tongue out massively, control the ball with your tongue, bring it into your feet, and bury it in the back of the net. What a goal that would be! That
would be a first. It would, but I think it's unlikely. That I'm not, and there's no rules, I don't think, about controlling the ball with your tongue. But I think it's a long shot.
You never know. Anyway, he helped Botafogo clinch the league and Copa Libertadores double last season, and now, drum roll, please. Just in case Angry Matt is listening, he's signed for Nottingham Forest. He's just signed for Nottingham Forest for a reported $23 million.
Who has? This guy, the frog guy?
Yeah, the Little Frog. The Little Frog.
Has signed for Forest?
He signed for Forest the week before the World Cup kicked off.
That sounds like a great signing.
Well, I would think if he signed for them now, his 17 million would become about 30 million because he's had a great Club World Cup. So it's one of those. I remember going back in the day when Derby, in their pomp, when they were finishing 4th and 5th and 6th in the Premier League,
here we go.
Signed a player called Aljosa Asanovic just before the Euros, played for Croatia. And it was the same thing. He became a global star during the Euros, and we signed him just before that. And there's no possible way we would have been able to sign him after.
No,
because we wouldn't have been able to afford him.
He was a player.
He was under Jim Smith's team, if you remember that. What a team.
Yeah, and they were in Championship, Division 1.
He's 24 years old. As I say, he's had a great Club World Cup. He's going to be playing in the Premier League next year, so his profile's going to go through the roof. He's bursting onto the scene in an almighty way. So we talk a lot about the established stars for Brazil. I think this kid is my wild card that we're going to see a lot more of, and by the time the World Cup kicks off next year, mate, you talked about Brazil not having a natural number 9. Maybe he's the answer.
Maybe they do. So what about Neymar then?
So what about Neymar? Right, okay, fine. So Neymar is Brazilian's all-time top goal scorer. His numbers at PSG when he was playing there were absolutely ridiculous. He scored 118 goals and 79 assists, by the way, in only 173 appearances. So Amazing. He's got more, if my maths is right, he's got more goals and assists than appearances, if that makes sense. So that is unbelievable. But in the last 2 years, his career's just taken a massive nosedive. And he made
he had a bad injury at the end of 23-24 season, I think, and that's really knocked him back.
Well, yes, he did. He did, and that has knocked him back. But he made the decision in 2023 when some might say he was not quite at the peak of his powers, but not far off, to go to Saudi. And we all know what happens when you go to Saudi. You just kind of disappear. And he played a few games there, played a few games before, excuse me, he got an ACL. And that ACL injury kept him out for a long time. Nothing happened. In January this year, he's back in Brazil. He signed for Santos, where he played as a boy. He's played a little bit of football. Then he got hamstring injury.
He wears the number 10. He wears Pele's number 10.
He wears Pele's old shirt. And you just feel his career the last 2 years, just at a time where he needed to keep it going. If you think Ronaldo and Messi in his early 30, when he gets to sort of 32, 33, they kept it all going. He's not been able to. He's not been able to.
No.
He hasn't been fit. And that decision to go to Saudi, was it the right decision? It was the right decision for his bank balance, no doubt. Was it the right decision for his football? But he is no doubt the talismanic character for Brazil. Okay, 79 goals in 128 games for Brazil tells you all you need to know. But they've got to get used to the idea of playing without him. Now, they've played without him largely for the last sort of 2 years, and they haven't done well. They haven't done well.
No, they haven't been able to score anything like enough goals.
Well, this is it. So they've got to get used to doing that. I think they will, because you've got a lot of youth coming through, and we've spoken before about Brazil, their ability to blend youth, blend experience, and all of that. They've now got one of the greatest managers in the world, who we'll come to in just a moment. But what's going to happen? Is he going to get fit? Is he going to get fit? He's going to be 34 by the time the World Cup comes off. He's barely kicked a ball in the last 2 years. He's got one season to get himself up to any kind of level to make an impact. I hope that he will. I hope we will see Neymar in the World Cup, but I think we'll see him, if anything, as an impact sub and nothing more. Yeah,
I think you're right. And I think playing for Santos is not going to help. I think if he was playing in the European stage, I think might raise his profile. Everyone would notice him more. I think to be fair to Santos, I think that's less likely. I think playing in the South American or the Brazilian domestic league. So, yeah, I think his days are gone. You're right. He might be there in the squad. He might be there for kind of sentimental reasons, but I don't think he's going to have a significant impact on the World Cup. They need to solve that. The solution to that isn't going to be Neymar. The one thing I'll probably add to that is that his value to Brazil, I think his value in the Brazil camp is massive off the pitch as much as it is on it. I think being around is talismanic. Just being around lifts everybody, lifts the players, lifts the supporters. If the supporters can just see him on the bench, that'll just help. And I think he'll be a brilliant support to the young players coming through, because they all idolise him. You look at the youngsters coming through into the Brazil setup now; they're of an age where they all go, Neymar. He's my inspiration. I model myself on him. So he was a great in his pomp. No question about that.
Oh yeah, yes. He never quite got there. My criticism was always kind of that partying lifestyle and that social media stuff, which I don't really like. And he never really reached.
Doesn't stop you.
No, this is true. He never really reached his potential.
That's why you never made it. That's why you never made it as a World Cup footballer. Too much partying,
all that partying,
social media, that lifestyle.
Joking, aren't you? I wouldn't know where. Well, I'm getting there. I'm getting better at it. But yeah, I'm not a social media animal. That's for sure. So he'll be there. He'll be at the World Cup, and I think he's got a massive role to play, whether he's playing or not. Right, that's a quick rundown. Well, it wasn't that quick, to be fair. A rundown of some of Brazil's key players. Mate, over to you for a look at formations.
Yeah, just a quick one. Just before we do that, Global Sports Podcast Network partners with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements, because your body is unique. Mine certainly was. It's a little less unique now, because without knowing what deficiencies you have, taking off-the-shelf supplements mean you might be not getting enough of what you need. You might be getting too much of what you don't need. So Bioniq provides 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what you need. So click the link in the show notes, use the code GSPN 2025, get your 40% discount off your first order. I'm going to whistle through formations, because actually formations before...
I think you need some supplements. I think you need some supplements.
You're looking a bit...
I think you need to rebuild yourself after your little illness.
I am looking a little bit skinnier, aren't I?
Yeah.
Do you not think?
You look great.
Anyway.
You look...
I'm like a racing snake. No, I'm like a racing snake. No.
A racing snake?
Yeah.
You've got a long tongue.
Muscly.
With a forked tongue.
Yeah, moving on. So formations... I'm only going to talk about the last two games, because no point talking about the Dorival formations. Ancelotti clearly has got a different plan. There's been two games, 0-0 against Ecuador. Most recently, they beat Paraguay to confirm their World Cup qualification. Against Ecuador, finished 0-0. And this is key, because 2 clean sheets after conceding 4 against Argentina completely changed the back four. Back four has stayed the same in the last 2 games. Vanderson, Marquinhos, who we spoke about earlier, Alexandro, and annoyingly, Alex Sandro. So there's Alexandro and Sandro, whose first names is Alex, just to make life difficult. So Vanderson, Marquinhos, Alexandro, and Alex Sandro. of the back four. That was the back four for both of those games. That looks like it's doing its job. Kept 2 clean sheets. Against Ecuador, it was a 4-3-3 with Gerson, Casemiro, our friend, and Bruno Guimaraes in the 3 in the midfield, and Vinicius Richarlison. We haven't mentioned Richarlison. He's probably a man in the, let's say, the twilight years of his greatness. And
He's
Estavio
rubbish.
front.
Sorry, Richarlison's rubbish. He's a terrible.
Richarlison's rubbish. Is that the official ESPN line on
I
Richarlison?
I don't understand why Richarlison's still getting a game for Brazil. He can barely get a game for Tottenham, and they're terrible. And when he plays for Tottenham, he's terrible. I don't get it. Unless they've literally got nobody else to put up there. Why is he playing for
Well, I
Brazil?
think this is part of the problem. I think they really do struggle up front. And but the second game they played when they beat Paraguay, he went with a 4-2-3-1. Same back four, did a good job. Guimaraes and Casemiro. Casemiro is another one who I'm not just don't think has got what it takes anymore at the top level. The front three of Raphinha, who we haven't mentioned, great player for Leeds and now Barcelona. Cunha, who we haven't mentioned, recently got his move from Wolves to Man United, great player. And Martinelli, great player for Arsenal. So they've got a nice front three, if you like, in midfield, supporting Vinicius Junior. So, yeah, I think the fact that Richarlison's still knocking around just tells you all you need to know about where the real problems are for Brazil, and that's up front scoring goals. So,
but you would think, sorry, but you would think with 3 players there, the likes of Martinelli and Raphinha and Cunha, there should be goals in that.
There should be goals in that.
I mean, Cunha should go to Man U for a shed load of money in order to score goals for them. That's his job. I mean, he is a creative. I know he's not an out-and-out number 9, but Raphinha's a great player. He's got goals.
Raphinha's a great player. He's Martinelli's a great player. Honestly, what they need is a number 9 doing a great number 9's job, and those 3 supporting that and running into the box. But they don't have it. So that's where we are. 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 seems to have solidified things in the back four, but I think they've still got problems up front. That's the take on the formation. I don't know why I'm dancing to that, because that noise now gives me PTSD.
We all know what that music means. It's everybody's favourite time of the week. It is, of course, Kenny's quiz. He's having a drink of something to prepare himself. He's got his head in his hands.
Yeah, it's liquid cocaine. But make an easy one.
I should hasten to say GSPN does not endorse the taking of drugs, particularly not on the podcast. So, Kenny's quiz this week.
Come on,
I've taken these questions from the London School of English quiz of Brazil, which I came across whilst I was researching all of this. And it had some really, really bizarre questions, which is all kind of about Brazilian culture and doing, like, in other words, if you're having a cup of tea with somebody in Brazil, how do you drink your tea kind of questions. It's like really bizarre. I haven't gone down that road. You'll be glad to know. I really, really expect you to get this first question right, mate. And as always, play along at home. And as always, if you're used to hearing Kenny's quiz, there's a regular theme of questions. And that theme is, of course, borders. So my first question is this. Brazil shares borders with all of the countries in South America, apart from 2. What are they?
Apart from 2?
Yeah. Brazil shares borders with all countries in South America, apart from 2. What are they?
I'm going to go Ecuador, because Ecuador's right on the northwest coast. Why have we got music again?
Because I'm playing it because you're just sitting there in silence thinking. So the listeners might think
Ecuador.
All right. I've asked for 2. There's 2. Don't give me 1.
And I reckon there must be one right at the north then. So I would imagine it would be something like Guatemala.
Can you hear this? No, you can't hear that.
No.
That's the sound of clapping, Ken. That's the sound of clapping. There's a little theme. Not because you got it right, because you didn't, but just for giving it a go. So well done. Thanks for coming. Here's one of those medals you get at primary school these days just for turning up and trying. But you get nothing for winning. Yeah, that's right. That's it. Your tiny little trophy. Put it back on the desk because you're not getting mine this week. You were close, though. 1 out of 2 is not bad. The 2 South American countries that border doesn't Brazil, that border doesn't Brazil, that Brazil doesn't border, let's get that bit right, are Ecuador.
Yeah.
So you got that one right. Yeah. And Chile.
Mexico? Chile?
Chile
does border Brazil.
Mate, take it up
Chile
with the London School of English. Don't write to me, write to the London School of English. Right?
Chile
remember last week,
Brazil.
Do you remember last week when you said Uzbekistan was the only double landlocked country in the world and you were proven to be
telling
wrong?
you, Chile borders Brazil. Right. And I'm going to personally write to the London Economic Brazil Bureau and tell them they've got that wrong.
Good. They haven't got it wrong, though. The London School of English may or may not have. I'm going to have a look in a moment. Right, question 2 is, Brazil has the highest population. I'll give you multiple choice on this one. Brazil has the highest population in the world of which immigrant community? Is it Spanish? Is it Japanese? Or is it Italian? And whilst you think about that, I'm having a look at a map of Brazil to see what countries it borders. Because I think I'm right and I think you're wrong, but I generally think about that in life. No, mate, are you off your head? You've got no idea of South American geography. It so blatantly borders every single country. You've got Ecuador off to the northwest, which borders Colombia and Peru, and right down the slivery southwest of the country, Chile, which borders Argentina, Bolivia, and Peru as well.
Not right in the north. Not right in the north. Doesn't it touch Brazil right in the north?
Hey?
All right.
No, you're talking absolute garbage.
I
so
must be
listen, twice in 2 weeks you've tried to fight this and you've got it wrong.
So, second question then is this one about the. So I'm going to go Japanese. Brazil
has the highest population in the world of which immigrant community? The answer is Japanese. Congratulations!
Get in there.
I did a little round of applause sound effect, but I don't know what's happened to it. It's disappeared. Okay, well done. And there's a bonus question here. Here from the London School of English. And this is what I meant about random questions about Brazilian culture. You are having a long conversation with a colleague. And I hope, by the way, if you're listening in Brazil, you're going to get this right. You're having a long conversation with a colleague. Which of these should you avoid? Should you avoid A, close proximity, B, not maintaining good eye contact, or C, physical contact? You're having a long conversation.
You should avoid. I think they're quite touchy-feely people, so I think they'll be okay with physical contact. I think you should avoid. What's the second one?
So close proximity is number A, is letter A. B, not maintaining good eye contact, and C, physical contact.
I think not maintaining good eye contact is the thing you should avoid.
Well,
because they like good eye contact. Everyone knows that about Brazilians, especially the ones near the Chile border.
I think if you went to Chile border, you'd be nowhere near Brazil because it doesn't border it, as we've established. If you went to Brazil, Ken, you would be great at business because that's the right answer. That's the right answer.
No, I reckon I've got 2.5 out of 3 there.
Well, that wasn't really a question, but I'll give you it 2.5 out of 3.
Oh, right. It wasn't really a question.
They like good eye contact because it shows the other person you are listening and engaged. Brazilians tend to have conversations in close proximity to each other and often display physical contact.
I tell you, I get my first flight to Sao Paulo.
So you should, and make sure you look everybody in the eye. So those questions this week, courtesy of the London School of English. Thank you very much for providing those. Mm-hmm. Right, we're nearly there. This was always going to be a bit of a longer podcast, to be honest with you, because Brazil is so worth talking about. Let's now get on to the manager, then we'll get on to predictions, and then we can all get on with our day. And not that much to say about the manager of Brazil, because there is so much to say about him that everybody knows. Don Carlo himself, Carlo Ancelotti. Ancelotti. I gave him the big build-up, but I've buggered up his name. Let's try that again. You know that bit about Zenkos where it says he cuts out mistakes? Let's cut this out. Right, manager for Brazil, Don Carlo, the Don himself, Carlo Ancelotti. There you go, that was better. People tend to forget about Carlo Ancelotti because he's been so successful, that he was an amazingly successful player as well. And he was a brilliant player in his time. He was an outstanding defensive midfielder. Think Andrea Pirlo in his pomp.
Yeah.
Better than that.
What a player.
He played 442 games. 20 years he had at Serie A at the top level with Roma and AC Milan, and played 26 times for Italy. And his playing career spanned for between 1976 and 1992. And people don't remember him as a player.
I remember him as a player. I remember him playing against England, I'm sure, for Italy.
Yeah, brilliant. Great player. But even his brilliant playing career is totally dwarfed by his managerial career, which is utterly insane. Okay? Insane. And I'm going to run through what he's won very briefly, just to give you an idea of how good this bloke is. With Juventus, he won the UEFA Intertoto Cup. Yeah, okay, fine. AC Milan, Serie A, Coppa Italia, Super Coppa Italiana, UEFA Champions League, UEFA Super Cup, FIFA Club World Cup. With Chelsea, Premier League, FA Cup, FA Community Shield. With Paris Saint-Germain, Ligue 1. With Real Madrid, La Liga, twice. Copa del Rey, twice. Supercopa de España, twice. UEFA Champions League, 3 times. UEFA Super Cup, 3 times. FIFA Club World Cup, twice. FA Intercontinental Club. Bayern Munich, the Bundesliga, and the DFL Super Cup, twice. And with Everton, he won a game, which for Everton managers is successful.
How did Everton get hold of him? This is the question. How did Everton attract Ancelotti to Liverpool?
He left for 2 years as well. I know, 2 years he was there. He must.
That was
I don't know.
Well to get him.
So an unbelievable list of achievements, and of course, if you look down his list of personal achievements, his personal awards, I'm not even going to bother going down there. It goes on for hours. It goes on for days and days and days. His list of personal awards. He is, I think, the greatest manager in the world. I know everybody goes on about Pep Guardiola, but for me, Carlo Ancelotti is the greatest manager in the world, and I'm really, really excited. Really excited that he's taken on the Brazil job, because, as we said at the top of the show, for me particularly, and I'm sure for millions of other people around the world, World Cup equals Brazil, Brazil equals World Cup. And we want Brazil to be brilliant. We want them to win. We want them to do really, really well. And with a manager like Carlo Ancelotti, they have given themselves an unbelievable chance.
Well, they clearly wanted him, and they were very happy to be quite flexible in terms of the arrangements of him being a manager. So that he was then clearly their number one choice. And I'm glad he's there as well. And you've seen the results automatically have changed. He's going to bring a great deal of belief, I think, to the team, and he's got a big job. He's got a big job in the next 15 months, I think, to turn him into a potentially World Cup winning nation. But they couldn't have anybody better at the helm. That's absolutely true. So, on that note, before we actually get to the hour mark, first time we've gone over the hour on the podcast, where are they going to finish? What's your prediction for where Brazil are going to come in the World Cup?
Okay, before we do that, I've got an apology to make. And my apology is to James in Boston, because for the second week running, we've delayed your question to us. And your question to us is around, do we think whether or not the World Cup with its expanded format works? I.e., what's the point of having teams like Jordan in it and Uzbekistan in it? Who are they going to bring anything to the party? He emailed that question in a couple of weeks ago. Didn't get time to do it last week. We certainly haven't got time to do it today. We are going to do it next week. Okay, whoever we do, we're going to do
next week we'll do Jordan, and
we'll do
Jordan, and therefore now we're not talking about the old supermodel. We're talking about the country. They've qualified for the World Cup. We'll deal with that same issue when we're talking about Jordan.
So are we doing? By the way, I don't think Jordan would like to be described as old. I think you've probably upset her. But Ken Does Jordan is a totally separate podcast.
I've seen that video. I've seen that. That's 18 plus. That's not safe for work.
So yeah. So James, apologies for that. But actually, if we're going to be talking about Jordan, it's a valid debate. So we'll build that in. But thanks, mate, and bear with us. Right, predictions. I'll tell you what, mate. Kenny boy, you go first with your predictions this week.
I am torn on this because when I first looked at this, I thought Brazil, they've had a pretty rough qualification process. They don't look like a team that is, I think, fifth in the world, given their recent results, is a bit optimistic in terms of their ranking. I was thinking quarterfinals. I was thinking round of eight, so quarterfinals, when they were going to come up against a team just too good for them. I think since Ancelotti, and since doing some research on this, I do believe in Ancelotti. I think he's a very, very good manager. I can't see him winning it. I can see them getting to the semi-finals. So I'm going to say Brazil will be eliminated in round of 4, which is the semi-final. Nick?
Yeah, maybe I should have gone first then. So let me read you out my notes for Brazil. 6 months ago, I would have had them gone out actually early, not group stages early, but 16, even 32. I would have had them sort of be bundled out pretty easily. But with Carlo in charge, we've got a host of young players coming through. They're going to have a more settled squad. They could go all the way. Argentina and Spain are the teams to catch at the moment. France are in there. England are in there. But Brazil, to my mind, since they've
England are not in there.
I don't mean about winning it, but I mean sort of the ones who are going to get to the real late stages of the tournament. And we're going to do England at some stage when they qualify, which will be December sometime. Brazil have catapulted themselves right into that group of potential winners, but certainly teams who are going to get to the end of the tournament. So, like you, I've got them semi-finalists.
Agree on something. This is really starting to take shape now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 predictions now. 9 teams now.
I've got 8 semi-finalists, which don't quite work.
Now we've got them going out you particularly have got them going out all over the place. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So we both agree, though, they've got to be semi-finalists. That feels about right.
Yeah, I hope so. I kind of. Do you know what? I hope they get to the final because I'm a bit bored. I'm a bit bored of seeing Spain now. If I'm honest with you, I'm a bit bored of being. They've won loads recently. I'm a bit bored of Spain. Argentina, I'd like to see them get there for lots of reasons, and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago when we did Argentina. So, here's hoping. We'll see.
Is it possible to have an Argentina-Brazilian final, or are they grouped in such a way that?
Well, not yet. The draw's not been made, has it? So
no, I mean, does the draw always end up with actually those guys don't end up in the final? They end up in the kind of a semi. I've got a feeling it might work.
I've got a feeling they do. Yeah, I've got a feeling they do. They'll be depending if they're both on the same side of the draw, then they're going to end up with each other before the final.
Yeah, I think they do that. But maybe we need to look at that at some point.
Well, great. We should do. We will do when we know who's qualified. But I mean, FIFA, for goodness sake, don't put them in the same half of the draw. That would be absolute lunacy.
Because we've never had an Argentina-Brazilian final, have we? Can you imagine the fireworks? They'd be literally at war with each other.
I know, and we don't need fireworks. It's going to be 200 degrees anyway, and on a bobbly pitch. So
and it wouldn't be fireworks; it'd be actual artillery.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Anyway, so that's Brazil. That was fun, wasn't it? That was a really enjoyable one to research and do.
I love that, and I hope you enjoyed it, guys. I hope everyone listening to this right around the world are well in tune with everything that's going on with Brazil. Fantastic. Thank you for that. Lots of good stuff going on in there. I hope you did well in Kenny's quiz this week.
You know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to go and research how to conduct a business conversation in Jordan.
Well, I do know the first thing you do is go and research Jordan's borders. So I'm deliberately not going to ask a question about that next week because I know that you would research it. Yeah, how to conduct a business conversation in Jordan.
Yeah.
Let's see what we do that week.
Jordan. Not with Jordan, in Jordan.
Well, don't even talk about being in Jordan. We're not doing that conversation. Right.
No.
Thank you for listening. That's it for this week. A little extended podcast talking about one of the greatest football teams in the world ever, and that is Brazil. Join us next week when we go to the other end of the scale, talking about Jordan World Cup.
You say that, though. I think they're the dark horses of this competition.
No, they're not. But let's find out next week why Ken thinks Jordan are the dark horses of that competition. Until then, enjoy yourselves. Look after each other. Look after yourselves. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.